Okay, and check to make sure we're properly live. Okay. Hello, welcome to another installment of Let's Roll. Pixels Roleplays, Let's Roll character. I've been kind of thinking about some other things to sort of just kind of talk about. I've also considered the idea of just doing, maybe as part of the actual Pixels Roleplays channel, once I get up and running. Just videos where I talk about my setting and the various aspects, kind of offhand. Um, I'm also going to look into how to create like another profile or whatever needs to be done in OBS to stream to the other channel, um, rather than this one. Although I'm kind of using this one as kind of a gateway to the other channel. I still need to actually let me actually try and do that quick. Let me see here. It's gonna. Hmm. Uh, I got the About Me page for Pixels Roleplay. I could do that. Um, uh, Manage account. Hmm. I wish I just had a way to go to the home page for. There we go. My channel. Doesn't have any videos yet. I guess I didn't upload the video like introduces the campaign setting yet. I thought I did. Maybe I didn't. Maybe it was a two different channel too. Cause I think I think I uploaded it to my main channel and then I didn't. I did create an offshoot channel when I realized that like even my main channel was demonetized. So I'm like, okay, well, okay, I might as well just build the channel from scratch. Um, but anyway, I think I can just link, and I don't know, I might not be authorized to make changes to this now that I've logged in as Pixels Roleplay, so, but there will be content on there. Yeah, my authentication has expired. So let me switch back to the Pixels Plays channel. And then, I don't know, delete and repost, or maybe I need to refresh the page. Yeah, I need to refresh the page. Okay, actually it did save. Okay, cool. Okay. At some point I'm actually going to create like a different like intro video. I just don't have any particular ideas for an intro video for Pixels Roleplays as opposed to Pixels Plays. So that might actually be a while. Let's see here. I'll use the one that has a white eraser. So, where were we? Well, first I want to kind of talk about a something of a concern that I have with at least how character creation has been going so far. And this is something that I believe Spoony, the Spoony one, talked about when he was talking about 5th edition D&D. And I guess to some extent the although he may have been talking about like the idea of rolling like 3d6 in order for character creation, um, as an argument for that. But what I would say, this takes that the problem that he talked about potentially a step further. Um, Unfortunately, his argument for rolling 3d6 in order, or even potentially, if you want to be a bit of a wimp about it, you can do the 46 roll, drop the lowest, but still do it in order. So the idea would be to roll either 3 or 4d6, and you roll it once. Actually, let me just demonstrate here. I might just do 3d6, just to take it all the way. And that's not how I'm gonna actually roll my character, because I've already started using the actual Pathfinder's technique. But so 5 and 2 ones is actually pretty bad, but for a character like Melody, this is actually not too bad. So that means her strength was 7. Her constitution is 9, which actually is one better than the way I have it right now with the Pathfinder method. Her dexterity is 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 9. Then 12, which is actually what it is. Her intelligence is actually pretty good at 18, maybe? Or is it 16? 12 plus 4 is 16, I think. Yeah, 16. So, I'm not actually writing down these results, so this is just purely for demonstration. So this is 10 for wisdom, which is what it is already. And then for charisma, we need big money, no whammies here, if we're actually going to be using this, which we aren't, but 9 plus 10, 11. So actually that's kind of what a regroup stats. But that's how you do it. If you're doing it with his preferred method. I personally, if I were going to do this in order, I would still do the drop below 46, drop the lowest, because as you can see, you get some kind of middling numbers from rolling, just playing 3d6. And if you're playing a game where the method is for rolling is 46, drop the lowest, the gameplay is going to be balanced around that. So I would suggest, unless you're rolling on actually intending to play an older version of D&D, probably do the 46 drop the lowest, because the game is designed with the idea that you're going to get somewhat higher numbers for your character, due to that, and there's going to be kind of an expectation within the design of the game. The DM could potentially do some things to rebalance that, but or GM, as the case may be, but there's only so far you can really go. So yeah, but you can also do the in order thing with 46 and dropping the lowest. So like that means that your character. That means two things. And I think I spoke about this a little bit before. If you're not sure which class you want to play, or you're maybe just a beginning player, there's a degree to which it can be beneficial to just roll in order. And that's like with the idea that like this is who your character is, that which class is good for those stats. So so it's kind of the reverse of what you would normally do in character creation, where you you roll the attributes, and then like you already have an idea in mind for the character, and you build everything around that character. Um, where you assign the ability score she rolled is based upon who the character is, or what class your character is. And again, well, getting to the point of it, Spoonie was saying like that every character of a particular class is the same. That's his kind of argument against being able to actually assign your ability scores. Is that every sorcerer is going to have high charisma. Every um, you know every fighter is going to have high strength. You can't really make there's room to create atypical characters really, and but I mean if you're kind of going for an optimal configuration, like every character is going to have a particular stat as their favorite stat, and that's just it. And you can't. I guess he kind of likes the the randomness of it and the ability to create characters who may be suboptimal, but it's just kind of the way it for their class. But that's kind of just what you're dealing with, and you can have some fun with that. But the problem we have here is that because it's all based around stat boosts, like just dealing with these base 10 things, and you have some free stat boosts, so you have some room to customize. But this is literally like if you're trying to build an optimal character, then literally every sorcerer is going to be the same. Literally every rogue is going to be the same. Literally every character of every class, you might as well just, like, at this rate, Paizo might as well just say, hey, if you're making, like, like, aside from Ancestry stuff, which gives you some stat boosts, which might give you a little more customization, or a little more of a somewhat random element. Like, if you really want to play like an elf, and it's not a matter of, I mean, I guess to some degree you could even say like every, like given the stat boosts and detriments that you get for being an elf, you basically say like if you want to play a character who can get away with having lower constitution, or a character who can, who, or if you want to play a class that that favors the attributes of a particular race, where the racial boost you get to ability scores are favorable for that class, then you play as an elf. I don't know. I really have to look at the like the racial bonuses and detriments you get, ancestry stuff. So ability boosts, dexterity, intelligence. So if you have a class where dexterity and intelligence are favored, then you would choose to be an elf. The ability flawless constitution, and also I guess where constitution, having a low constitution is not really going to be too detrimental. Then so elves are going to favor like wizards and monks and I guess rangers and such. So there's a degree to which even your race is going to kind of determine probably what your class is going to be. Um, you know, which is going to make classes even more the same in a way. Like every you know every monk is either going to be like an elf or some other race that favors like a goblin maybe. I don't know. Like I just closed the playtest book. Um, but yeah, like let's say here, elf favors dexterity. I think monks and rangers probably favor dexterity to some extent. Um, the goblins favor dexterity. Halflings. Humans are completely free, so I guess you could play human and you'd. The only difference is they only get 2 ability boosts, but they're both free ability boosts. And they don't have any ability flaws. I guess the rest of it might be from like being a half orc or a half elf can get you maybe some extra ability boosts and or flaws. I don't know. Like I imagine that being a half elf gives you a charisma boost probably. Just like traditionally, I would assume. But they're ancestry feat, so I don't know. I haven't really looked into all of that since I'm playing a half elf or a half orc right now. So yeah, like you play like one of 3 races. I guess that it does give you a little bit of flexibility, but yeah, is a degree to which literally every character of a particular class is going to be nearly identical. So I'm pretty sure this Spoonie, if he's even looking over this, which he might, I don't know if he's actually going to make a video about it because he hasn't made much videos in a long time. But yeah, I mean, this is probably going to drive him crazy. Like, you have the option to roll, but like you're kind of discouraged from doing so. Like it says, like it emphasizes that the game is not balanced for this technique. So yeah, I mean, I think that 5th edition is superior because it kind of is open in some way to point by, you know, to various ways of rolling up your character. So I think that what I would encourage Paizo to do is to work on a way to have a balance that is somewhere in terms of character creation that is somewhere kind of between where you could do it with just the skill boosts, or you could do it with, the free 46 drop the lowest technique. Maybe not go so far as to be like, oh yeah, you can do like 3d6 and roll drop the lowest, because that's again, it's not really. I don't know. Sure, it really has a place in modern role playing games, unfortunately. Unless you're okay with being handicapped, basically. But yeah. Uh, and maybe even make the rules for like ability boosts and flaw stuff even more streamlined. Like I don't know. Granted, I haven't tried that yet, and maybe I will. Like if I roll a different character, which I might try to roll a character with as an extra thing, roll up another character, and use the 46 method, and to see how different it is. But like as it stands, like looking at our ability scores so far, we have a lot of 10s, like which are effectively our dump stats. And I like to have a variety of different numbers. Kind of. Um, some things may be below average, and some things may be substantially above average. Um, but anyway, what I want to look into right now is what are we going to do with skills? Um, because we have, I believe, as a sorcerer, we actually have uh, with our intelligence bonus as it being what it is, um, at +2, we have 7 um, uh, ability to train with skills. And the thing is, I'm not sure I want her skills training to be that spread out. So I'm wondering if we can make her an expert in something. What I'm imagining the rule would be is that you kind of, to make her an expert, I have to sacrifice 2 skill trainings. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's possible. Uh, which skills are signature skills? Crafting. One more determined by your bloodline, which will either be draconic or I think I may have settled upon an imperial. But I'm not really sure. Um, uh, so I'm just gonna read determine skill modifiers here. Not that you know which skills are signature skills, which I haven't really done. And it said which skills she's trained in. No, I haven't really completely done that. Okay, here we go. This is what we're talking about in applying our class. Um, um, TML field appear to your character sheet. Stand for trained, expert, master, and legendary. These fields indicate your character proficiency and determine which modifiers your character applies to rolls and DCs when using certain mechanics. For example, if your character has a rank trained, the rank of trained in a given skill ability, her modifier to rolls when using that ability is equal to her level. Okay, so it's basically a proficiency element. But now it's just moving on to your character sheet. Note your character's key ability score on your character sheet, as well as her class DC, which is equal to 10 points plus her key ability modifier plus her level. Note her total hit points. Well, it doesn't mention anything about yeah, doesn't mention anything about how to advance skills beyond trained. Like, I may have to house rule this potentially. Like, I really wish a lot of these books would just go through character creation in a much more streamlined way. Like, this is trying to, I think, but there's still a lot of like flipping around and like not going into like, okay, like what do I do if I don't want to be trained in 7 skills? Like, what if I want to be more trained in 1 skill? Like, what do I do then? Like, this is what I'm asking at this point, and I don't have an answer on hand. So, like, am I just, like, forced to train her in more skills? Um, like, right now she has occultism, religion, arcana, and I believe academia is just from her background. So she has so she has, like, four more skills that she needs to be trained in. Um, and I'm not really sure if anything is particularly appropriate. Crafting is a signature skill. Um, that might be good. Um, I don't really see any reason why she would have performance. Society really would be a weak point for her. Like, she has been fairly sheltered. Thievery, like, she's good. Like, stealing things is bad. Okay. Medicine, maybe. Nature, possibly. Um, uh, I don't think she'd be, like, you know, acrobatics and athletics. Uh, you know, it could be, but, um, like, I could, as it is, I could, if I'm using the rules I imagine in my head, I could basically increase her, um, arcana probably, and maybe even her lore to expert by using two skill ranks or whatever you want to refer to them as. But uh, uh, here's step-by-step instructions. There's voluntary flaws. Um, um, like, beware of making your score so low that your character can't keep up with the party. Uh, I guess they do go, like, through um step by step, sort of. Oh, this is based upon, like, whatever they're building. Um, Here's their optional about rolling ability scores. Um, which we'll get to if we roll another character. Um, I don't think there's anything about, like, um, what do you want? What do you want to do if you just run out of skills that you're interested in giving your character, and you still have, like, skills training left over? Like, what do you do with it? Besides just, like, randomly assigning it to other skills. Um, there's more on it on page 142. At the very least, we can figure out, like, what we can do with, like, crafting and, like, lore, perhaps. Um, um, there's crafting, lore, um, no, like, examples of, like, types of lore. Um, because these are skills you can increase the proficiency rank of those skills to master or legend. So I suppose if it isn't a signature skill for your class, you can only go up to expert. That's what I'm assuming anyway. Um, although there might be like feats you can take to uh, gain a hmm magical crafting feat. Uh, like that would probably be the type of crafting I would give her if I was going to give her crafting at all. Although it's a feat, so like would she need to get that feat to do magical crafting? Um, um, uh, okay, the lore skill featured in subcategories you may have military lore, sailing lore, vampire lore, or any similar subcategory of skill. Um, there's no examples of subcategories of lore. Like, is it just like whatever you can imagine as a subcategory of lore you can use, or do they? I prefer they give you examples at least. Um, beyond just like it's like military, sailing, vampire. Um, like what does academia even mean? Like I guess it means books, but then there could be books on any subject. So like it's this a master lore ability. Is would it be like with the caveat that like oh you read it in a book somewhere like like how do you balance that as a GM? Like oh like I may have read something about this military or vampire lore in a book somewhere, so I can roll for it because I have the academia lore. Like maybe there'd be a higher DC because you don't uh like you're it's it's a jack of all trades, master of none type of situation. Um, but yeah, and what is occultism anyway? Ancient philosophies, esoteric lore, obscure mysticism, and supernatural creatures. Um, she has lots of knowledge about the meta, which is just a very strange philosophy, I guess. Um, uh, um, yeah, like I don't think there's anything about like, um, uh, how you deal with like attributing skill ranks beyond or at least there's nothing like I can find offhand in terms of like character creation. Um, it's trained in number of skills equal to 5 plus your intelligence modifier. So she has like 4 more skills she can train, and I have no idea what those skills would be because I just imagine her as a more specialized kind of character. Um, I mean, I guess they could draw inspiration from the signature skills of Imperial includes diplomacy and society. I might have to go with Draconic. Acrobatics and intimidation. Uh, I can imagine she'd be intimidating sometimes. Like the general idea. I can't remember which. I think it might be a blue dragon since she has blue hair. Um, or uh, or it could be silver, but she has light blue hair. Um, I don't know if your draconic bloodline really actually influences your alignment at all. Um, does it even really also actually I imagine that her um, draconic lineage would actually be blue steel, I think, which would give her lightning. Um, I think that was actually the idea behind it. Like the color, like since this is a my own campaign today, I can tell you that there were blue steel, um, which are identical to bronze dragons. They're just blue. They just happen to be blue colored. Um, like her having electricity gives her a limited power. A limited power. Um, so I could give her acrobatics, athletics, and intimidation. Um, because they're just their signature skills, and she'd have extra boosts in that, I guess. Um, since I have no like actual rules regarding that I can find so far anyway. Stumble across them or someone like mentions in the comments or the chat. I don't think there's anyone in chat right now, so um, so uh, that's from her background. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have two more. Um, I'm probably gonna give her crafting. I guess I'll give her intimidation. Like she doesn't like intimidating people, but she can if she wants to. Uh, it might be fun to play around with. Like she accidentally intimidates people on occasion. um, and sorry, this is like I don't know if it's smudged. I don't have any Kleenex. Or I have Kleenex, but it's buried someplace. Um, if you're wondering what this little thing is in the corner, it's Stranger Things Demogorgon I got for Christmas. Like, yeah, it's a pen though, so I suppose I could have used it for her name or whatever. Um, so is that? I think that's everything in terms of like skills she can be trained in. Um, I could give her more lore, but at least as an NPC, like I don't want to give her too much lore because that should just be a exposition. You know, I mean, although I have like considered the idea of like if I were to find like a actual game to play in, um, it'd be interesting trying to incorporate Melody into someone else's campaign setting. Like she's very much rooted in Torian, but there could be like a god of fate called Dominique, possibly obscure, more obscure depending on the setting. Um, uh, like how many details of that religion and the things that she might be after, uh, religious artifacts she might be after. There's two in particular that I already mentioned, the Dominomicon. There's another which I won't get into, which is a lot more spoilerly. I'm gonna try to keep things light on spoilers. Um, when I finally get around to having my campaign actually play out. Um, but anyway, what do I do now? It's finalizing my ability scores, which I don't know. Have I actually done that? Um, um, let's go to page 19. That's just ability modifiers, but okay, that's what. Okay, there's ancestral. Is that actually a thing about fighters? Is they have ability flaw in charisma? I wouldn't see. Is that from uh, just being a fighter? I mean, I guess you would be scarred. Um, it doesn't mention ability boosts. This is key ability. Um, do you get ability boosts from your class? Um, boost from your bloodline, actually, isn't it? Or did I forget, I may have switched my bloodline, so I don't know if, no? Okay. Um, do you get any ability boosts from your... It might be because the example dwarven. Um, um, Actually, kind of illustrating the exact problem here. Like, if you're playing a human fighter, you're going to have a strength and con of 12. Um, oh yeah, the other ability booster from your background. So do you get four free ability boosts? Um, I guess that's like what you get. I think like at each stage you can't use it more than twice. But I think after uh, okay, so you get one class ability boost. Um, okay, so key ability is where you get the final boost. So it would be charisma. So it brings it up to 16. Um, which I believe is plus 3. And I could give her one more boost, which would bring it all the way up to 18, which is the maximum it can be. So that's one of the free ability boosts. So she could get a boost to... I think intelligence and wisdom would probably be good. She put this over here. So that would be our I think that would actually give us one more skill. I could use the final one to make her Constitution 10. I don't know how like important it is for a sorcerer to not be too squishy. Dexterity could probably help also, just to allow her to dodge more attacks, so she doesn't take as much damage in general. Um, uh, uh, so like as it stands right now, she would have like 11 hit points, I think. Yeah, and if I gave her a positive con modifier, then it would be if I brought her constitution up, she would have um, I think the con modifier I think determines how many hit points you gain per level, so it would accumulate. Like -1 isn't bad right now. It's just like one less HP, but then as she levels up, she would also get one less HP. So it would still, and also like just any Constitution saving throws that she has to make would be impaired. Um, Granted, the idea of her being kind of frail would be interesting to explore. That she maybe favors dexterity more. Again, she could dodge more attacks and not get hit at all. Um, so that's something to consider. It's just increase her dexterity, and therefore she would just take less damage in general. Um, and of course, we could take care of her weak constitution later on. Just leave her flaw as a flaw, and say she's kind of trained up her reflexes to compensate for that. Um, I'm actually kind of leaning towards that. Lisa said we would have a complete variety of scores here. Actually, um, like this would be a proper variety of scores since we wouldn't have no two scores that are alike. So we're actually kind of liking that because we have an 8, a 10, a 12, a 14, a 16, and an 18. Like all even number scores. That's kind of the way the system works. Um, so I think I'm gonna go for dexterity, which would I think improve her armor class. Um, if it's anything like other role playing games, then uh, also improve her initiative probably if we have initiative anyway. Um, I'm gonna go ahead and put her level at 1. And she gets like one more. She might know a thing or two about nature. Um, uh, but she really hasn't been out in nature. Um, I'd probably go for medicine. Um, though at this point, uh, it's just a useful skill to have, and something she could have realistically I think this is. Yeah, there we go. That should. Okay, so I think it basically covers it for her skills and attributes. Um, we might be finalizing her attributes right now. I kind of wish I would just say that in the frickin' you know this other like character creation thing. Like, oh yeah, you get like 4 ability boosts. Um, but this does like feel like a proper. At least it does have a degree to which there is a sense of it being a proper. Um, these are things you could have realistically rolled up for your character. So it's not like out of the realm, but again, you kind of there's a degree to which you could very easily just create a character who is identical to someone else of the same class. You can get creative and like add an additional flaw. You can uh, like there's options to and again there's still the option of rolling them, which I will try probably when I create another character. I'm not sure what that character's going to be, but yeah. Anyway, so okay, skill determining skill modifiers. I think is the other thing here. I think we can finalize our ability scores at this point if we understand them properly. Um, so you put the score here in the modifier there. I guess it makes sense. Uh, so again, just recommendation tip: Paizo to switch around wisdom and dexterity on the sheet, so you have a column for physical scores, a column for mental attributes or abilities. Um, just makes it a bit more the organization feel a little better. That'd be a fairly easy fix. Again, I wanted to change diplomacy to persuasion or even influence. Um, if you want to have a unique term, um, uh, uh, if it isn't somewhere else in the book, I would want to have examples of crafting and lore, um, types of war, um, just so you don't have like a whole lot of confusion of like whether or not heck even the idea of academia like needed to identify what academia is, you know, because it feels like it's a broad thing that you can apply to like any lore, any lore check or recall knowledge check. Like that just feels a little weird to me. Um, either that or just I don't know, like make a scholar so that like you just get like a type of war, like a more specific, like you studied something. Um, you studied something that's academic in nature at least. Um, with something more specific than just academia in general. Um, unless I'm completely misunderstanding what academia is supposed to be. Like to me, it's like reading books. You know, making yourself educated in a very general sense. Um, So in Constitution, let's see, Constitution's 8. We skip down to Wisdom. That's 12. I should start filling out the bonuses here, the modifiers. 0. I could just put +0. Constitution -1. Wisdom is +1. See, dexterity is 14, which gives us +2. Modifier. Intelligence is 16. It's funny because like intelligence is her second best ability, and yet she's kind of a little dumb in certain areas. But then again, like wisdom is like one of her weakness things besides strength and constitution. So, let's see, charisma is 18. It uses charisma, but she's like barely trained in any charisma skills. I probably would not have her make charisma-based checks that often. Even if I were actually playing her as a character, I would just, I would not do or break a persuasion check unless, or diplomacy or whatever, unless the GM asked me to. Like she'd basically be making diplomacy checks by accident. And potentially with disadvantage if that's a thing. So skill modifiers, okay. I think we've already kind of applied our class. We can do our starting hit points are 11. Our current hit points will be 11 too. So, class DC, where is that? Okay. So, we have our math worksheet stuff here, which is something that it's a thing about Pathfinder. I think that, 5th edition did a fair amount to eliminate the math worksheet aspect, but so her class DC would be 15. The problem with math worksheet aspect is not so much that you have to do math to work out I think we need to fill out the signature stuff too. So I think that so crafting is a signature skill from sorcerer. I think you need to fill in like that. And one or more determined by your bloodline, which realize that so she has acrobatics. Arcana, all of the A skills, basically. Then intimidation. Okay. See, weapon proficiencies. Simple. Would that mean she's trained? Armor proficiency. I don't think she has any armor proficiencies. Untrained in all armor. So I guess she's trained in simple, I guess. I will assume. Yeah, trained, okay. Cool. Okay. Okay, determine skill modifiers. Now you know which skills are your skills for your character and decide which skills she's trained in. It's time to calculate her skill modifiers. In the second box to the right in each skill name on your character sheet, there's an abbreviation that reminds you of the ability score tied to the skill. Okay. Dex, intelligence, strength, etc. So we can just like fill those in, I guess. So okay, the problem with the math worksheet, I forgot to actually say this, is that at least what I found with starting players, is that it's really also I'm not sure if it's you just need to put like what type of war is in here, because I think this is where you actually put your actual score on your character sheet. So I don't know how you indicate which type of war it is. Yeah, I don't think there's any other spot for like what your actual score is. So I might have to like like right up there. Um, I believe proficiency is just your level. Um, so I'm just gonna go for like stuff that's trained or signature, which I think everything is signature is also trained. So, um, Dex is +2. This is the problem. Like you have all these numbers, you type in as part of the math worksheet, or you put in as type part of your math worksheet, and then a lot of players. Although I think it helps here that like the number, at least for like your total, is on the left and like right underneath the name, so that hopefully is going to help with the problem. But yeah, you have all these numbers, and like a lot of the numbers are just there so that you can do the math on the sheet. And that's kind of the problem. Like, okay, like which number do I use? Like, okay, I'm rolling for acrobatics. Well, which number do I use? Like, I have all these numbers I've written down on my sheet. Like, and it's like, like half of those numbers are just to add up and figure out what your actual score is. So I'm hoping. I had to look back at the actual Pathfinder sheet to see for sure, but like yeah, it's like the one that's like right underneath acrobatics, or that tells you what your acrobatic score is. Everything else is just to help you figure out, you know, and calculate what your score is. That's why I call it a math worksheet problem. Is if you're not used to it and you know and that's partly because I think I filled out a lot of character sheets for them, so that may have also been part of the problem. But yeah. Um, so intelligence is +2, I believe, or is it +3? It might be +3 actually. I think I forgot to increase that. Um, yeah. Uh, I did actually put it here. I'm just gonna put it here too, for the heck of it. I mean, this is all stuff I probably better erasing anyway, but so +3. Strength is +0. Intelligence is +3. Let's go through all of the intelligence columns and go +3, and then just work on everything. I'm not sure if they allow you to do untrained skill checks here, so it might not really matter. Let's go charisma +4. I don't think they actually have like any training requirements for particular skills, at least not listed on the sheet. Let's see here, strength-based stuff. Anything besides athletics is strength-based? Interesting. I'm glad that they've streamlined everything. They've followed the example of D&D 5th edition by streamlining like swimming and climbing into athletics, basically. I feel that's a good choice because the problem with having such specific skills is that you like say there's a situation where you need to swim or climb. Um, and you haven't like really specialized in those skills or trained in the skills or given ranks in those skills. Um, like you just can't do it, or you're just gonna be terrible at it. You know, there's skills that only apply to very particular situations, and that creates a difficulty where you have no idea how many points you should, you know, like how many times are you going to need to swim? How many times are you going to need to climb something? Like, um, I think probably swimming a little bit more than climbing. You know, there's no way of being able to really predict that, which I mean, it's kind of like real life. I mean, to be honest, but it just creates a situation where like when you're thinking about where to attribute your scores when you level up, you know, or how to shape your characters you're leveling up, you're dealing with a lot of unknown variables, and it um you know, in real life you don't necessarily, you know, the numbers stuff is still fairly meta. So, you know, uh so yeah, I just um it's like, oh, I don't know if we're gonna need to swim off, and then suddenly like they throw in a situation where you have to swim. Granted, I guess a good GM would probably um, look at those things and like go like, well, no one knows how to swim, so I'm gonna, like I'm either gonna create like either one I'm gonna be, you know, kind of hit home like they need to work on particular skills, but giving them a scenario where like, or at least an optional scenario, like there is like a scenario in like the um opening adventure I think, or like the beginner box adventure where you there's like a treasure chest that's across a lake or a small pond within this dungeon cave thing. Um, and if none of your characters know how to swim or have like, you know, any proficiency or training in the swim skill, um, you're gonna be like, oh, like I can reach these treasure chests, you know, and things that might be across water. If I put points into the skill, so like I can't do that now, but like maybe I could come back here later, um, or like if I run into a similar situation later on, I can. That's a use for it. Um, but it's also very specific. So like, yeah. Um, so I think it's better just in general to have broader categories for skills, so that like you don't have to like sweat, you know, having to uh, figure out where to apply your points. And in fact, fifth edition on top of everything else kind of gets rid of the whole building your skills, you know, thing, and just it's just proficiency, which creates its own little issues, particularly when you're multiclassing. You know, you can and or if you're starting to multiclass at higher levels, you can just suddenly become extremely proficient in thieves tools or you know or whatever. Like you can work that into the narrative as a DM in that case. But it could be pretty tricky, I imagine. Anyway, let's move onward here. But I think this is presenting something of a happy medium. I think from what I'm just looking at, um, because it has like these levels of training that your characters can have, rather than necessarily having to constantly think about like how your skills are going to improve. You just sort of give yourself an initial thing. You can, you know, there's ways that you can improve your training. There may be limitations to how much you can improve your training, and particularly if it's not a signature skill. Um, but Okay, so we've got all of those filled in. Okay, so skill modifiers. Okay, um, 2 proficiency modifier, which I believe is just if you're trained, you just get like the 1 um, proficiency from your level, I believe. Um, if it just probably further stuff about like what it means to be like an expert. I it should just tell you everything you need to know, like right there. Even if it's reiterated later and maybe elaborated on a little bit later, like it should just tell you, like okay, like this is what you need to know as you're creating your character. Don't like have to turn to some other page or figure out how these things work in other sections of the book. Just tell me what I need to know to roll up a character. Like obviously, like if I'm going into class and ancestry stuff, like yeah, those are going to be, in background and such. Those are elaborated in great detail in other sections of the book. But those should be like the only sections I need to flip to figure something out. Like the basic elements of character creation should all be outlined just in this opening section of the book. Whereas like there's this and then there's step by step, and it's like okay, well, like this already it feels a little redundant, but also it contains information that like should have been in the actual step by step instructions. Um, uh, so okay, so I want to deal with like 18 or higher stuff because um, that only applies to once you get to 18, then it's 1 point. Um, but we can't. Uh, we can't do that at the beginning anyway. So, um, hell, like, probably we actually talk might be in the actual section about skills, where we figure out like. It just happens to be an expert in why am I like 2 sections away from section of skills is like so small. What does Isitter's skill do besides I guess yeah, it might just be like master and legend. Um um so well, skill modifier equals ability modifier plus proficiency mod plus circumstance bonus plus conditional bonus plus item bonus plus circumstance penalty plus conditional penalty plus item penalty plus untyped penalties. Wow. Yeah, that's a lot of math. Um, then again, I think it's up to the GM to do most of that. Like, um, although like circumstance bonus plus conditional bonus feels a little weird. Um, Yeah, this feels a little too complicated. I think, regardless, but since you have like the circumstance bonus and conditional bonus, and then penalties based on, I guess conditional might be like if you have like if you're stunned or something, or like something's happened to you that's like giving you a status condition. Then that might be what it means, and then circumstances like the situation you're in. Um, uh, it doesn't really say. Um, I'm pretty sure it said somewhere about what the different bonuses are for different types of uh of uh like skill, uh and it should really say that like right here. Um okay, so if you're untrained is your level -2. So that's gonna be a little weird. Um so it'd be like -1, I guess, for a first level character. Yeah, so if it's untrained, it's going to be proficiencies -1, -1, -1, -1, -1, -1 everywhere. That doesn't have any training. -1, -1. I guess like armor proficiencies would be also -1. Um, if that's a thing at all. Um, so what might be outlined someplace else? Really. Um, so it's just equal to your, huh? So your training, I thought it was a lot more complicated than that. But apparently, if you're trained, it is equal to your level. But if you're expert, it's just your level +1. If you're master, it's level +2. And then, um, if you're legendary, it's equal to your level +3. Which, I don't know. So, uh, so this is just +1. And then the only thing she's expert uh is will saving throws, so that's +2. Does she have any items quite yet that increase her any further? So, um, we're gonna get the scores here. Armor can give penalties, I guess, to athletics and acrobatics, or possibly bonuses, but probably the stealth definitely, and even thievery. I think that thievery in general is probably a better skill than pickpocket or sleight of hand. So good at them for that. I think that fifth edition does like thieves tools for as a proficiency for like lock picking and such. But anyway, so this is acrobatics is +3. Arcana is +4. Athletics is just +1. Crafting is +4. Deception is still +3. So is diplomacy. Is +4. And now my cat wants in, apparently. Or +2. Besides academia, I guess. Medicine is +2. Nature is +0. Cultism is +4. Performance is +3. Religion is +2. Society is +2, I believe. Self is +1. Survival is +0. And thievery is +1. You trying to figure out how to get up here with all this junk around? I'm sorry. What's it doing? Okay. There's buy equipment. How do we determine how much money we have? First level, your character has 150 silver pieces. You can probably like just note that up here, I guess. To spend on armor, weapons, and other basic equipment, Armor weapons are often the most important. Character's class lists types of weapon and armor that she's proficient with. Her level determines how much damage she deals in combat. Armor influences her armor class. Calculations are covered in more detail in Step 9. Include essentials such as food and traveling gear. There you go to Chapter 6. Go shopping. Equipment. Coin. Bulk. Yeah, apparently that's something of a thing. Of course, the coin values. Basically, we have equivalent of 1 gold piece, but in silver pieces. So if she's not we're gonna have armor. She should probably have clothing if there's any extra like flavor items in equipment. I need to move it temporarily so you can get to your pillow that you can lay on, or do you actually just want to lay on my lap? And if you can pick up the her purring on the microphone or not. You can see your tail. her tail's appearing on camera. Okay. Probably needs to have like a spell focus or something, maybe. I mean, it might be useful for her to have some kind of simple weapon. Maybe a dagger. Let's see here. Is this items? It's upside down. I think I didn't. That's equipment. I don't know what happened. What? I'm still streaming according to this. Okay, reconnection successful. We're just shopping at this point, so hopefully we didn't. I should probably just have a dagger, maybe even a pair of daggers. That's just pretty cheap. And now she wants to get on top of my book. What you reading, brother? Okay. Okay, so if I give her a couple of daggers, that's going to be 4 silver pieces. Dagger. Just 2 of them though. How much does that bulk L? What does that even mean? Just light, I guess. Double light. So she should now have 146. Silver pieces. Simple range weapons, I guess she would have proficiency in those. I think I gave her a crossbow at one point. A sling costs 0 copper point. Silver pieces. Like, do you just fashion one yourself, I guess? Bullets cost 1 copper piece each. Or for 10, I guess. I'll think about it. I don't really understand why a crossbow is considered simple. I mean, I guess it depends on the design. You can get a heavy crossbow. So adventuring gear. I think she would have probably fine clothing. Like this, how I've designed her character, so that costs. It's not really equipment though. I don't think. Might be like she has fine clothing equipped. Doesn't really have any. It literally has no bulk. So let's go say fine clothing. I should put like 146 SP here. Actually, to change that to 126 since she bought the fine clothing. Is there like just an adventurer's kit sort of thing, or do we need to like buy individual things? Oh, maybe this is just a spell sheet here. Yeah. So. I might just have to like make a separate page for just noting other items, I guess. Oh, does she have a backpack? I just don't imagine her having a backpack. Like be a belt pouch. But also like don't imagine her like just carrying things around. Basic crafter's book. I forget what the heck that would be. So, character book contains formulas for all of the common items in this chapter. Yeah, I don't think that would be her. I mean, maybe she'd have like a horse and then, um, like a chest that she just keeps in like the back of the, uh, um, uh, uh, let's see, religious symbol. She probably would have a silver religious symbol. Um, like it doesn't really, uh, I don't know if she really carry a religious symbol. Like she has earrings that basically are kind of like a religious symbol. Um, she has earrings in the shape of D20s. Um, excuse me if I just hit the microphone with my pencil. Religious text, she probably wouldn't carry it on her. Uh, I guess light bulk is, I wish she would have a belt pouch for the daggers, at least. Um, um, so that is, 4 copper pieces. So now to go backtrack substantially. It's 1/10 of the silver piece. Okay, so she would have 1 less silver piece. 125. And then 6 copper pieces. At this point, bedroll. Probably could get bedroll. How much bulk is that? That's light. Okay. Can it actually fit into your belt patch? Belt patch? Belt pouch? That actually kind of funny if you can fit an entire bedroll inside your belt pouch. That would be quite a like ingenious design or something. Um, um, Unless she have a spell book. Probably not at this point. like formula books. Formula book might be good, and I should probably just hold off on doing a lot of shopping until I find something that like is like probably did it off camera. Really, yeah, this is kind of boring. There's formulas, apparently. Animals. A horse. Is hmm. You purchase a riding horse for 80 uh, silver pieces. Which is probably what she would do. You get a riding pony, which actually I think may be more appropriate for a character, but I don't think it could carry a cart though. Like, does it say anything about a does it really mention like it might be in like the bestiary or something. There's war ponies. There are pack animals, which I imagine is like literally for if there's any like indication of like a cart. In adventuring gear. Nope, no mention of a cart. That's a little weird. This seems like a big oversight. Unless it's like mentioned somewhere else. These could be a horse or a pony. Probably a horse. I mean, she's a full-sized person, so probably a horse would be sorry, I'm like taking this off of the putting it in equipment, even though like she's not really equipping. If anything, the horse is equipping her. There's 80 silver pieces. That's gonna take a good dent for resources. 80 minus 25. I'm just kind of doing some weird math here. This is 80 minus 25. We subtract the result from 100. Let's see, 80 minus 20 would be 60. This would be 55, I think. So 100 minus 55. 45. So she's down to 45 silver pieces and 5 copper pieces. Okay. I think she's gonna get formula book, probably. Formula book. That's probably light. No, actually, it's a book of 1. That costs. Then if we got like rations or whatever, probably. Rations for 1 day, 5 copper pieces each. Good enough for a week. That would be like for 6 days would be free silver pieces, I think. Then 5 copper pieces, so we can just how much is that? That's light. Cookware. What's does even mention cookware in the friggin' descriptions? That's kind of weird. This is self-explanatory, but still. I mean, someone else might have it. Yeah. She'd probably carry a mirror. That brings us down to 22. Which is no bulk really. That might be like there's a material component pouch. I don't think that sorcerers need material components, so yeah. And put in melee strike stagger. Guess she's trained because it's a simple weapon. I believe a dagger could be dexterity, so I think 1d4 piercing. What? Ability would be Dex, so not sure what the other side column is. +2. I think Ancestry mentions some details about age ranges. Again, I think that I might make her 21 rather than 19. Because they reach physical adulthood at age 20. So let's go with the theme of them being 1 year older than the age of adulthood in their society, or physical adulthood. So that should work. So yeah, alignment still here. Armor class. Yeah, touch armor class. So they don't have those combat maneuver stuff that's weird. So dexterity modifier. I didn't do saving throws yet. Wisdom +1. Constitution -1. So that is +0. +3 and +3. So AC here is kind of redundant. I'm putting +2. Dexterity cap. Not really trained in armor, so that doesn't really Yeah, that's doesn't dex cap as relation to armor. Um, so her AC is 12. Okay, so this some armor has like bonuses, particularly to touch AC. So since she doesn't have any armor, it's just the same as her regular AC. Okay. Doesn't look like we have initiative. Perception is just wisdom. Plus proficiency bonus 1. And wisdom bonus of +1. So I think this would just be +2. Yeah. Bulk. I make up 1 bulk. Okay. She only has like like 2 light items and 3 light items and 1 item that actually has bulk. So so her carrying capacity is just 5. So if we have any hero points, just 1 per session to start out with. Resonance points, charisma fire plus level. Where are resonance points? I think it might be in the back. Charisma plus level 1 plus 4. I think we get maximum of 5 and currently 5. And then it's saving throws. I think just self-explanatory at this point. I think that may be it. I mean, besides working out the rest of the details of the class. I can't remember. Do you get like another feat besides the ones that are like granted by your background and your ancestry and background? I think. Doesn't really mention anything about feats in dang it. This is just Saving throws, and then it just ends there. Class features and feats. Okay. So there's the class feat. Huh. So I don't know. So at first level we have 2 first level spells and 4 cantrips. An additional spell or cantrip from Bloodline. Spell and cantrip. Okay, cool. So we can go into that possibly. Well, first we probably want to look at our class feat possibly. So I just get detect magic and fear. Apparently. The same thing for Imperial, so it's not really much different at this stage. So I should be doing this over here, but that's just fear and cantrip detect magic. Okay. Okay, so what would do to gain a sorcerer feat? You can select one of the following feats. You have to what? Okay, aberration sorcerer or metamagic sorcerer? What the heck does that mean? Or is that just something? Okay. Feats is the metamagic trait. I guess this is the trait of it. What does abjuration mean then? Um, we can get counterspell. I guess it's just a feat now. Um, is there requirements for counterspell? Well, that's interesting. So, at least for the counterspell feat for sorcerer, um, you can only counterspell a spell that you have in your repertoire, which actually kind of makes some sense. Um, because like you would need to understand like what spell they're casting, sort of, to counter it. Whereas, and there might also be like an actual counterspell spell. Um, I kind of have to imagine, but at least in this instance, it's a matter of it has to be a spell that you have in your repertoire. So it kind of the implication, I guess, is that you had to like kind of understand the spell to understand how to counter it. Um, and you must have an unexpected spell slot of the triggering spell's level. And then you had to attempt to dispel the triggering spell. That's I don't know how to feel about that because it's very much like a gamble, I guess. I mean, it's a gamble, I guess, when you use counterspell anyway. But because there's always a chance that they'll resist it. Um, I might take that anyway. Um, when you cast a non-cantrip spell that deals damage that doesn't have a duration, this is dangerous sorcery, by the way. You gain a conditional bonus to the spell's damage equal to the spell's level. Familiar. Actually, this is what she would do. Actually, um, um, that would be her first level feat is actually familiar. It would be uh, 287. I originally heard her familiar with Mechanical Crow, but that was when we were in the Barovia setting. I might make it just a cat. Um, Familiars. I can't remember if I spoke about how familiars work. I'm pretty sure I haven't. Familiars into Ryan are interesting, so let's go into a bit of lore. This will be actually interesting. A little break from where the tedium of this. I might make videos talking about like, different aspects of Turian lore. Uh, those will be like exclusively on the Pixels Roleplays channel. Um, but anyway, okay, so they were originally animals. Um, so anyway, um, the concept of familiars in Terrain is that they start out as something of an imaginary friend. It's inspired by actually they're referred to as tulpas. Tulpas are basically something I think I stumbled upon while on the internet randomly as happens. Um, and basically, they're sort of like imaginary friends for adults, which is kind of an odd concept. But the idea is that in Terrain, it is actually like a fragment of your soul that kind of um, a tulpa is effectively a fragment of your own soul that gains a kind of consciousness that's somewhat separate from your own, like connected but somewhat separate. And in most cases, you kind of outgrow it, and the tulpa, that little fragment of your soul, sort of just reintegrates into your main soul. But for someone who is magically inclined, or who wishes to become magically inclined or studying magic or whatever, um, there's a degree which you could be encouraged to retain it, and eventually separate it. Um, kind of like becoming a lich or half lich, probably closer to becoming a half lich, but it's not as dangerous. It doesn't have as many implications. It doesn't really make you immortal. Um, because it's a tulpa has a somewhat different nature. Like again, it's a kind of a splinter of your soul that can be broken off without really much of an implication to you. Um, but anyway, you can cast a find familiar or whatever the heck it may be, and you transfer that bit of your soul into an animal, a creature of your choice that you've discovered, and then they become magical and kind of fey-like or whatever, and they become basically a familiar with all the features and elements that come with that. Um, and actually, the idea of well, uh, Melody's familiar is named Bimpy, or she calls him Bimpy. Bimpy. He's technically his name is technically pronounced Bippim, which is a play on Beats Per Minute to just kind of go for musical theme. Um, but she doesn't like that name, so she calls him Bimpy instead. Um, and part of the idea behind him is that Melody doesn't really have like direct knowledge of what's going on in the meta. Um, like she understands what the meta is, but she isn't like actively conscious of the meta. Her father kind of is. He's kind of gotten that deep into things. Um, but anyway, her familiar is, and her familiar can occasionally will communicate something that's happening in the real world, as it were, to her, and she kind of makes of it what she will, often being somewhat confused, or at least confusing those around her when she makes a random reference to something that her familiar is talking about, and communicating to her telepathically. Um, that kind of creates something of a buffer between yeah, things with regards to the meta. As far as I guess like the question of whether or not her talking about the meta is going to drive people insane, it might, but only if she's really talking about it at length and in great detail. Um, and for the most part, she's been warned against that, and she's generally not going to do that. Like she might accidentally say something, but largely it's just going to confuse people. Like any reference she makes to something meta, it just no one's going to get it. yeah. Um, So, your familiar saving throw modifiers and AC are equal to your own before applying any circumstance or conditional bonus or penalties. That's kind of weird. Wouldn't it just be like equal to whatever creature you select as your familiar? Like a cat would have good reflexes, or perhaps just bonuses to its attributes. Um, like that's interesting. They had the minion trait. See page 416. Instead, they gain 2 actions each round during an encounter, and you need to spend 1 action each round to command them. If your dies, you can spend a week of downtime to replace it at no cost. Huh. That I don't like. Um. Uh, like, I prefer the idea, like in 5th edition, which I think is that it's a ritual, and I think it takes like an hour, and it requires certain components. That I think is a better, that's way better narratively. Like your familiar dies, oh, no, like it doesn't cost anything, but you have to spend a week to replace it. Like that would be good as an option potentially. Like, and even then, it feels weird. I guess a week of downtime. I guess there's always gonna be some amount of downtime. So I guess it's not gonna derail the game, but there's a logistical question of like, what are you doing to summon it? Like, are you just praying to the familiar gods during your downtime for the entire week? Like, what's making this happen? And again, like, just going an entire week without familiar is, like, especially if you're trying to, like, have that relationship with your familiar. And, you know, you have this bond, and then, like, it dies randomly. And again, it could be your fault a little bit, like, you know, with what you're doing if you're familiar, and you know there's a risk, putting your familiar in any kind of dangerous situation is something you want to avoid, obviously, but yeah, I prefer the idea of at least having an option to like use like material components or like I think like in 5th edition it's like incense or something, to just get it quicker. Um, um, Rather than having to wait like an entire in-game week without a familiar. Like, so there could be the free option, and then there's like the more advanced option that requires components and rituals and things. Um, I might even just house rule that um, if I run a campaign in this. But yeah, empathically, okay. Familiar abilities. Hmm. I don't know if that's something you can. Well, okay. Each day you can channel your magic into 2 abilities chosen from the familiar abilities, which will affect your familiar, and master abilities, which affect you. Um, so basically, in order to do this, like you're taking like one ability slot. Um, Fly speed. How would that work if it's a cat? Um, okay, so that's a kind of weird thing. So if your familiar is an animal that naturally must have one of these familiar abilities, for instance, an owl has a fly speed, you must select that ability. And an animal, it can't be an animal that naturally has more familiar abilities than your daily maximum and familiar abilities. I mean, I guess it is like it's just a thing, I guess. Um, so it's like if you choose an owl, that means you just have one less familiar ability. Um, or if it's like a gecko or something, it might naturally have a climb speed. Um, I could potentially house rule for terrain campaign setting that you only have one familiar ability, and because familiars can speak to you, that's just a thing they do. So that familiar ability just is on. So I mean, if I guess in that case, if you have an owl as a familiar, then you just don't get any flexibility with familiar abilities because it's always gonna be fly speed and understanding one language. Um, uh, I'm not sure if I go that far really. Um, it's just that you can. I guess in this case, you can technically turn off the on and off the idea that it can speak to you. Um, Beyond just an empathic element. Um, does it actually speak aloud? Um, does it have the ability to speak aloud if you choose that familiar ability? That would be uh, interesting, but um, uh, yeah, like the whole idea of Bimpy, or like the joke behind Bimpy, is that like Bimpy will communicate something to her, and she'll like um well, it's the funny thing, at least about her character initially, is that she doesn't quite fully understand that she can just reply to Bimpy telepathically. Like she doesn't fully grasp the idea that she has an option. So she has this weird thing where like she'll occasionally like Bimpy will say something to her and she'll respond aloud, and no one else can hear what Bimpy said to her. So, um, that's just one of the qualities of her character. Um, from what I understand of this, the animal can actually speak aloud in a way that like other characters can hear. Um, so like I either just go by the book, I guess in this instance, or I would um saying that unless that feature is activated, then it would it's strictly empathic. Um, and it can only become speech level telepathic communication if it has that ability activated. But it could also speak aloud if it wants to. Um, I could use that Melody's familiar is kind of unique in the sense that it can communicate, um, like verbally. Um, although would it in essence be a type of empathic communication? It would be I don't know, but I would say it's like limited to like it can only communicate with her telepathically, unless this ability is activated. That would be my house rule for that potentially. Um, unless of course I'm playing in someone else's campaign, then I probably would have to go strictly with what the book says. Um, but she probably would keep the speaking one language on. Um, as a sort of perpetual thing. Uh, Scent. I know. I'd probably have to look up the the actual bestiary entry on that. I can prepare one additional cantrip. That's interesting. Yeah, okay. I had to be able to prepare at least 4 level spells, um, level 4 spells to select that ability. That makes sense. If familiar is in your space, you can cast a spell with a ranger touch transfers power to your familiar. Command a familiar to deliver a spell. There's a section on deities. Okay. I don't know about like other feats. If you can pick other feats in addition to what you get from like your class and background and so forth. Let's just go into spells. Spells. Here we go. Spells. So you probably have as much like lightning-based abilities as she can. I think I just lost my bookmark on sorcerer because I'm dumb that way. What time is it? Oh, I've been inactive for 1 hour and 21 minutes. Okay, yeah, I should probably eat something. There you go. Okay. 2 first level spells and 4 cantrips. Okay. So. What the heck is a sigil? Or sigil, or whatever. There's no like cantrip for lightning. Also, I wonder if it's a spell like Morning Kindness Magnificent Mansion. It probably would not be called that though. She probably would have Mage Hand. Okay, you harmlessly place your unique magical sigil, which is about 1 square inch in size, on a touch creature. Object mark can be visible or invisible. You can change it from one state to another. Casting is meant to cast action during which you touch the target. The mark can be scattered or scheduled off with 5 minutes of work if it's on a creature. It fades naturally over the course of a week. The time the mark phase increases depending on your level. What the heck? What does it do? I guess like it might be just to like if you're dealing with doppelgangers or something. Maybe you you have the ability to like oh, there we go, electric arc. There we go. Okay, we're going into actual spells here. That's one cantrip. Telekinetic projectile? What does H stand for anyway? Um, um, Probably go with message. This massage. Shield possibly. See, mage hand. I make these alphabetical. Possibly shield. Let's see what shield does. Shield. As it's using to raise a shield action, you gain a +1 circumstance bonus to AC until the start of your next turn. It doesn't require a hand to use. While spell is in effect, you can use the shield block reaction with a magical shield. Shield has a hardness 4. After you use shield block, the spell is dismissed and you can't cast it again for 10 minutes. Unlike a normal shield block, you can use the spell's reaction against the magic missile spell. Heightening spell increases the hardness. I can only use it like once, kind of per battle, really. That's this is a little too like strategically weird. Um, the whole point of cantrips is you can use them as much as you want. So it feels like weird. Like you can only really use it like once per battle, depending on how much they uh, time around takes. Actually, might be a little bit different from 5th edition, but if it's roughly the same. Um, Light might be useful. Read aura. Um, How's it different from detect magic? Okay, send a magic pulse that registers the presence of magic. You receive no information beyond presence or absence of magic. You can choose to ignore magic your fully aware of, such as that reality magic items and ongoing spells. Detect illusion magic only if that magic aspect has a lower level than the level of your detect magic spell. However, items that have an illusion aura aren't deceptive in appearance, such as an invisibility potion, typically get detected normally. Hmm. So there's no like give location information, which is where um, read aura can help. And not really though. Although like technically, although it takes 10 minutes to cast read aura. Um, that can be kind of weird. Um, yeah. Um, so like you detect magic. Like there's something magical besides what the party is carrying, and then you like let me go for every object that looks like it could be magical in this room, and use read aura to figure out which item specifically is magic. Like there's a whole bunch of jugs. Like this could be jugs of endless water. Although I imagine that one would be big, more ornate or something than the others. Um, or you could like do an actual like Arcana check to maybe figure out which items seem to have the properties that would seem to indicate that they may be magical in nature. Um, Reader might be. I probably wouldn't want to have another offensive um, spell. Produce flame. Telekinetic projectile. Might be interesting. Um, okay, I think I like telekinetic projectile. Okay, so we got two first level spells. At least one should probably be we want to do mage armor. Magic missile would be kind of neat, maybe. Um, if there isn't anything like particularly electric, then I probably would want to. Shocking grasp would probably be the one. Let me look at what mage armor does exactly. It is kind of like almost useless in fifth edition. Um, Let me just like raise your armor class to a particular level. So like if you're mage, if you're like due to your dexterity or whatever, you're already like at that level, then like it doesn't really do anything. Um, um, yeah, it gives you a +1 item bonus to AC. It doesn't really have an armor proficiency either, so um, um, maybe. I mean, +1 isn't exactly that much, but at least it's a bonus rather than like, oh, it decreases your AC to this. Um, oh yeah, there is Magnificent Mansion, just Magnificent Mansion. Um, isn't it part of the arcane spells? Hopefully, please. Yep. Okay. Cool. Because I want her to be able to do that. That's kind of one of the main reasons why I want her to have. It'll be a long time before she's able to do it, but um, what does Shocking Grasp do exactly? Okay, but actually, if she actually has to touch the person to use it, then like seems to. Okay, it is ranged touch. Um, yeah, I might do that. So it might be. What was I thinking? Like mage armor and magic missile. Mending is actually a level 1 spell. It's different from fifth position. Like mending is usually uh summon monster. What? I mean, I guess at first level it would be a very small monster. Like um, I had to imagine. Floating disc. I don't think anyone can actually like stand on the floating disc. Although maybe there'd be a couple of ways to like heighten it. I think you can heighten cantrips. Like that's kind of a problem with fifth edition. Is that like you like cantrips kind of are what they are. Hmm. Probably not. Color spray. Hell, or would probably not be a thing in Turian. Maybe for particular types of creatures and things that are like maybe inherently evil, but alignment isn't like a foundational element of the world per se. But it may you may be able to like read a little bit with when like the aura of a soul might have like some clues as to what their alignment is, possibly. Um, I don't know. Let's see, color spray. Okay. It just dazzles people. Okay. Um, negate aroma. Um, I might just do mage armor and magic missile. She's arcane. Had to figure out what the heck spell roll DC is. Doesn't really talk too much about it there. It might talk about it like in the actual spellcasting section. Um, I'll probably work this out like off camera, some of this stuff. Um, okay, there's just a list of spells. But, okay. Talk about DCs and such. Well, that's lovely. Like maybe there's something I skipped over in the opening chapter telling me about what I do for spell roll and DC and stuff like that. I believe it is charisma, so that would be +4. I would assume she's proficient in spell casting, but proficiency. I'll work that out later. Assuming the spell attack roll would be proficiency plus ability, and then DC would be probably 10 plus proficiency and ability. Spontaneous spells? Okay. And I didn't bookmark Sorcerer again, so it might actually be listed in the Sorcerer Uh, um, I'm assuming these sketches are going to be colored in the final book. Okay, I'm just looking at skill increases. Um, okay, I guess when you start out, you are just a trained spellcaster, because it says like as you level up, you get like expert, master, and legendary spellcaster. So I'm assuming you just start as a um, um, so trained. She has a +1 proficiency bonus from her level, and that means her spell attack rolls will be +5, I think. And I assume the DC will be 15. Uh, but I don't know for sure. I think that's my instinct from 5th edition anyway. Um, okay, so page 291. So it's at the end of the spell section. Oh, it's in playing the game. Okay. It seems like something where you should do during character creation. So is 10 plus the creature's modifier for that type of roll? So it would be, as I suspected, 15. Okay, so um, okay. I have 2 spell slots for first level. Okay. I think that might be it. Yeah, I think she might be properly created now. Unless I'm missing something. So that is our character creation for Pathfinder. It took us only like 4 hours total. I mean, it'll probably be faster like when we start rolling up additional characters and we're not like having to like consult a whole bunch of different rules. But yeah, that's interesting. Anyway, if you've watched through all of this, thank you very much. It's been really long. I'm not sure if I'm gonna actually do another like role character unless I get like a tremendously good response to this video. Um, um, so anyway, um, probably doing some other stuff like actual game streams. I'm just not sure when I'm gonna do that. I have something downloading a game that's updated for like modern systems that I'm getting from my friend Aaron, and I don't know if without that updated version, I don't know if I could actually get to run. So, or very easily. So, but it's from a site where you like it is incredibly slow download if you don't like pay like $6 to like get no speed limits. So like when I started it, it estimated it would take 5 days. It might take 3 days or 4 days, but yeah, I can't. I closed Chrome, and that's gonna take a fair amount of memory. So I had to kind of do some kind of simple-ish um, things until I can actually finish downloading it. But anyway, let's just go into our outro. Thanks for watching. You can follow us on Twitter. Support us on Patreon. Every little bit can help. I'll be moving out hopefully in a month or two. Well, probably more closer to 2 months. But anyway, you can also do all of the things that don't really cost anything. And until next time, sayonara.